Alabama 42, LSU 28. Bryant-Denny Stadium was just insane last night. I've been there dozens of games. That was a top 3 Bryant-Denny Stadium environment for me last night, and they brought it, man. That place was amazing. Washington earlier this year for the Oregon game had been, the loudest, most raucous venue that I've been to this year, and last night I'm going 1A, 1B, like both of those places really flexed hard. And what a night it was for college football. What a night it was for Alabama. And also, what a time to remind ourselves not to take these things. I hold in my hand a pen. Don't write your opinions in September in pen. Because if I were to sit here and write what I wrote or write what I thought in pen about Alabama back in September, it would have sounded a lot like this. These fools got no shot. I thought the USF game was worse than the Texas game, mind you. They lost against Texas. They were lifeless against USF. That was the game Milroe didn't start for, whatever reason. And now here we go. We fast forward, win. We're several weeks down the road. Looks like a different team, doesn't it? It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing when you give talented rosters and supremely experienced and high-level coaching staffs time with those talented rosters. Sometimes crazy things can happen. I really wondered in this game if LSU's approach defensively wouldn't really make them vulnerable to Alabama having a really good day on the ground. That's what happened. Every one of Alabama's touchdowns, I believe, came on the ground. What did they have? They had 288 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground. 156 of that was Milroe. And I've heard a couple of people today sort of explain it away as if to say, oh, yeah, Bama ran it for a lot, but 156 of that was Milroe. Like that's not a 6'2" freight train back there who is allowed to run the ball just as much as a running back is. Jalen Milroe's actually playing his game now. Tommy Rees, credit to that offensive coaching staff. They are calling Jalen Milroe's game now. I wasn't saying that after the Texas game. Sure wasn't saying that after the USF game. Neither was anyone else who was watching this team. It's not a perfect team. It's not a vintage Saban team. It's a team that's plenty good enough to win every game on its schedule if the needle is threaded. And if his, being Jalen Milroe, if his skill set is properly leveraged, that defense is good enough. The supporting cast is good enough. They had 8 different guys catch balls last night, and Burton wasn't even featured. Jermaine Burton's their wide receiver 1, had 3 catches for 29 yards. They're good enough. I thought that even back before they hit their stride, I thought they were good enough. I picked them to win the national title this year. I thought they were good enough. It was just, when will they, realize that potential? Maybe they're starting to realize it right now. Second halves are amazing with Alabama. They threw, I don't want to do through games. How about this? Alabama has outscored LSU, Ole Miss, and Tennessee 56-10 in the second half of those games. I was in their building all day Friday. Big hat tip if I wore hats to David Ballou down there and the entire strength staff. Let me work out down there. It's like NASA. It's unbelievable. I got to keep my mouth shut about like 90% of that technology because I don't even think it's been released in NASA yet. It's amazing. You'll probably never get the opportunity, but if you do get the opportunity to work out down there, take it. Anyway, so I was in the facility. And you know who everyone speaks glowingly of, not so surprisingly, is Kevin Steele. And the reason they love Kevin Steele is because of that second half stuff, is because even with an imperfect unit, even with, frankly, a lot of the pieces that was on an even more underachieving unit last year, there's an intensity, at the very least, that he's pulled out of that unit defensively that you didn't see last year. And you know what? I had a guy a long time ago tell me that is really resonating to me right now with Kevin Steele is you can tell the mark of a leader. You can tell how effective someone is by what he or she is able to pull out of the people they're leading. Whatever Alabama's defense is capable of, Kevin Steele's pulled every ounce of it out. And it's not a Kevin Steele solo effort, nor would he sit there and tell you that himself. But what else do you notice that's changed? I mean, at the very top of that defense is Nick Saban, and then right beneath him is the defensive coordinator. Kevin Steele's done a phenomenal job. It's about attitude, like more so than anything else. If you're a longtime Bama fan, you watched them the last few years, you didn't necessarily yell, man, we lack talent at your TV screen. You said, who's putting their face in the fan here? Like, who's really willing to go over the cliff? Who is properly tackling? You could get aggravated about not properly fitting the run. You could get mad at guys not playing the ball in the air effectively. But even if you lack that sometimes, if you will just play with your hair on fire, sometimes you just happen to be in the right place. Sometimes you accidentally make plays. They're doing that stuff this year. And then on top of that, they execute at a pretty high level. That's all I need from them. That's all I need from Alabama. I don't need the greatest of this of all time. I don't need the greatest that of all time, because this is not a year where I look around the SEC and see a bunch of elite. I don't see it anywhere. So that's kind of been my mentality with them the whole time. Also, I listened to Brian Kelly last night after the game, and it was obvious he was kind of trying to avoid the thing that people will do sometimes where you kind of find yourself looking for a pat on the back. So they go in there last night, and they're a 3-point dog, and they get beat by 2 touchdowns. And Brian Kelly afterwards was so emphatic multiple times in the press conference and saying, yeah, we were good tonight. We were good at this. We were good at that. That's not good enough. Good is not the standard around here. Now, you can claim that's performative if you want to. It's not a message to the media. It's a message to the organization. I think a lot of folks look at that stuff sometimes and they think, well, if we were a top 5 team and we were undefeated and we went in here and lost, then our world would be crushed. But hey, we've already lost a couple of games. This isn't the biggest shock. We did some good things tonight. That's what someone who has 8-4 aspirations says. This is a national championship program. LSU's a national championship program. They're not there yet. They weren't there last year. When we talked to him, we had him on the show in the spring, and he talked a lot about how some early success can be great, but it can also work to your detriment. It could also be like you tying your shoestrings together at both ends in terms of tripping yourself up, trying to make bigger gains down the road because you fool yourself into thinking, I just figured it out the first time around. No, you won some games that you weren't favored to win the first time around. They've still got so much to improve about that program. I've not changed my view on Brian Kelly an inch. I think he's absolutely the right guy. I think he'll absolutely make the right moves. I think that, by and large, no one's changing their opinion of him at this point. But also, look, they showed some good things tonight. I just loved what he said afterwards. When it wasn't like he was refusing to give credit. He was giving credit, but then saying, yeah, but good is not enough. I'm not here to be good. We don't wear this LSU logo to be good. It's a national championship program, and you should expect nothing less. I love that. What I didn't love so much was I'm standing there on the sideline last night, just immensely blessed to be in that position every week. And Dallas Turner goes and just about annihilates Jaden Daniels. And then the iJosh starts blowing up, and this happened, I don't know, probably 15, 20 yards in front of me. The broadcast, I would assume, had multiple great angles of it. I thought I had a pretty good look at it. And I thought it was probably football 20 years ago. It's probably unnecessary roughness last night. I didn't view it as targeting. I know what your argument against that is. I'm not really interested in delving into that in the comment section. But I will say this. I have found in the past that when these sorts of plays happen, I used to get it with Ndamukong Suh all the time. I'm not comparing the two players. Please don't say that I am. But I've seen this a time or two. Some of these players get labeled dirty players. Then they get, their sin, Dallas Turner's biggest sin is he's good enough to be around the quarterback a lot. Therefore, he's got more opportunities to put hits on the quarterback. And inevitably, some of them are going to knock guys out of games. And some of them may come a fraction of a second or two later than you're liking. And some of them will draw flags and some of them won't. But shame on Dallas Turner for being good enough to do that. Shame on Dallas Turner for playing with an edge, by the way. What I've noticed is in the past, players of his ilk get criticized a lot. And when you really wipe away all the sand and all the dirt on top of the argument and you brush the fog out of the way, it's just people pissed off they don't have players like that on their own team. That's really who's mad. It's not that you really care about the well-being of the player. About 2% of you do. 98% of you are just aggravated. Nick Saban's got some dude down there who plays a million miles an hour and occasionally can be a little reckless. I would take 100 of them on my team. So Dallas Turner, probably not looking to hit the portal anytime soon. He will portal to the NFL soon enough. But if he wants a place to play, Dallas Turner can play for this team right here. Pate State, I got an immediate opening for players like that. Not necessarily what my LSU people want to hear. I know that. But I will, I'd say the same thing if it was your guy. I think I actually have before. Hats off to everyone down there. Both sides, man. I always love going to that game. The LSU-Bama game has been my favorite game in college football for about 15 years now because the level the game is played at is really high. The stakes are really high. The people just absolutely despise each other. It's so great. That toxicity makes for a wonderful environment, and we got one at Bryant-Denny last night. Man, that place was on fire. I said at the beginning of the season, and it was emphatically reiterated last night, Bryant-Denny Stadium has this reputation as kind of not living up to the hype all the time. But the reason is because Bama's been so good, those folks got complacent, and they never feel threatened. That's really it. It's not that they win. The winning makes you complacent, and you don't ever walk into that place really scared you're going to lose. This year, for 3 games, those folks have walked in there really afraid that they could lose. They were truly threatened by Texas. They should have been. They got beat. They were threatened and revenge-minded against Tennessee. Place was on fire. And last night, I am telling you, is about as good as I've ever heard Bryant-Denny Stadium. Why? Because LSU had a good shot to beat you. And you got up in Tuscumbia, and you got up in Mobile, and you got up in Demopolis and Muscle Shoals to the locals, and you drove to work accordingly. And I am appreciative because I just kind of got to soak it all in. So that was awesome. That was amazing.